You ever get that feeling that the old promise, the one where you go to a good school, get a good job, and you're set for life, well, that it's kind of broken? If you have, you're definitely not alone. The world is changing so fast, and that old map just doesn't seem to work anymore. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive in and unpack exactly why that is, and maybe, just maybe, what we can do about it. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to tackle this in 5 key parts. First, we'll talk about why that old path feels like it's fading away. Then, we'll get into this big gap between what schools teach and what the real world actually needs. After that, we'll zoom out to look at some huge forces at play, like AI and inflation. Then, we'll break down a new way to think about careers, scalable versus stable. And finally, we'll explore a new model that might just help us prepare for whatever is coming next. All right, so first up, why does everything feel so confusing right now? It really is like that feeling when you walk into a movie like 45 minutes late and you're desperately trying to figure out who's who and what on earth is going on. And that feeling leads us right to the big question, the one that so many of us are asking ourselves, right? Not just for us, but for our kids too. Is that old reliable pipeline, school to success, has it just sprung a leak or is it completely broken? The author Joseph Campbell had this quote it absolutely nails this feeling. Life is like arriving late for a movie. That's exactly it. We're all trying to piece together the rules of a game that feels like it started way before we even sat down. And here's a huge piece of the puzzle. Our education system, the whole thing, was basically designed for the 19th century factory model. Seriously, think bells, rigid rows, batching students by age. It was built for mass production in a world that doesn't exist anymore. And yet, here we are, trying to use that same old blueprint to get people ready for a world of AI and, the 21st century. Okay, so that outdated model, it leads us directly to our next big problem, this massive growing gap between what schools are teaching and what the economy actually needs. For decades, the mantra has been college for all. You've heard it a million times. And look, it was a well-meaning idea, right? It was about opportunity and social mobility. But by making a 4-year degree seem like the only respectable path, it ended up creating a whole host of unintended consequences. And you can actually see one of those consequences right here. This Gallup poll data is pretty shocking. In 5th grade, kids are mostly engaged. They're into it. But by the time they're seniors in high school, whoa, that engagement absolutely plummets. And it makes sense, right? If you can't see how what you're learning connects to your actual future, you check out. The whole thing starts to feel pointless. And that feeling of irrelevance, it creates a huge problem in the job market. We call it the middle skills chasm. Basically, these are jobs that need some training after high school, but not necessarily a 4-year degree. Think electricians, dental hygienists, software developers. These jobs make up more than half of our entire labor market, but we have a massive shortage of people with the skills to actually do them. And let's talk about the price tag for a second. The cost of this college for all push is just staggering. We're talking about $1.48 trillion in student loan debt. And that debt is a huge weight on an entire generation, whether they finish their degree or not. It means delaying all those big life milestones, buying a house, starting a family. It's a really heavy price for a promise that often doesn't deliver. But here's the thing, this isn't just an education problem. Not even close. We've got to zoom out now because there are much bigger forces at play, completely transforming the entire economic landscape. Really, you can boil it down to 3 massive forces that are reshaping our world. First, you've got the rise of artificial intelligence. Second, there's the constant erosion of our money's value thanks to inflation. And third, a growing gap between the rich and everyone else. And the key thing to remember is these 3 aren't separate. They're all tangled up together. So to really get what's going on, you have to understand something called the Cantillon effect. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. When new money gets pumped into the economy, it's not like everyone gets it at once. The people and institutions closest to the source, think big banks, giant corporations, they get it first. They get to spend that money while prices are still low. By the time that money trickles down to the average person, prices have already gone up. So your raise, it doesn't go nearly as far. So, where is all this heading? Well, it leads to a pretty startling conclusion. The very idea of what it means to be middle class is changing dramatically. It might sound crazy, but in the not-so-distant future, an income of $1 million might not be rich anymore. It could be the new baseline for what we think of as a comfortable, stable life. The goalposts aren't just moving, they're sprinting down the field. Okay, so with all of these huge shifts happening, it's pretty clear we need a new way of thinking about what a career even is. It's not one single highway anymore. It's more like a crossroads where you have to make a choice between two very, very different paths. Yeah, this image of a crossroads really is the perfect metaphor. We're all standing there right at that intersection. And the path we decide to take, it has huge implications for our future. So, on one side of that crossroads, you've got what's called a scalable career. The idea here is to disconnect your earnings from your time. Think about it. An author writes a book once, but can sell 1 million copies. A YouTuber makes a video once, but it can get millions of views. The potential upside is, well, it's basically unlimited. But, and this is a big but, the risk is incredibly high. Okay, let's break this down side by side because this is really important. The scalable path, it's a winner-take-all game. A tiny few win and win big, while almost everyone else gets nothing. It's a world of massive inequality. Now, the other path, the stable or non-scalable one, is completely different. A doctor, a plumber, an accountant, they trade their time for money. Their income has a ceiling, sure, but their success is way more predictable and a whole lot less risky. It really comes down to a choice. Which game are you trying to play? So, if the world is this complicated and the stakes are this high, how on earth do we prepare ourselves and our kids for it? Well, that brings us to our final section. Let's talk about a potential path forward, an idea called career-connected learning. The core idea here is actually pretty simple. If the old system is failing because it feels irrelevant, then the answer has to be, well, to make it relevant again. We need to build a strong bridge between what happens in the classroom and what happens in the real world. So, what exactly is career-connected learning? Okay, first, what it's not. It's not just job training. It's not about ditching academics. It's about making academics come alive. It's teaching geometry through a construction project. It's learning about history by studying a local business. It's about connecting the dots so students can see why what they're learning actually matters. And this isn't just some fuzzy concept. There's a real structure to it. It happens in 4 stages. It starts with just awareness, like what jobs even exist out there. Then you move to exploration. Maybe you shadow someone for a day. From there, it's application. This is where you get your hands dirty with internships or real projects. And finally, management. Learning how to actually navigate a career, how to negotiate, how to adapt over time. And the ultimate goal here, it's not to just pump out workers. It's to help develop a fully prepared human being, someone who can actually apply their academic skills, who knows how to work on a team, who can manage their money, and who understands how to build a career. It's about being ready for work, sure, but it's really about being ready for life. So, that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you to think about. In this new world we've been talking about, a world with AI, with these massive economic shifts, and this big choice between a scalable or a stable career, what skills do you think truly matter most for your future? What's going to be your key to navigating the path ahead?